Join us for a tour of how we made the Stowe Bridge video. To depict Stowe's bridge design, we had to create realistic views of the bridge, stylized 2D graphics, and present historical materials like newspapers and photographs in a pleasing way. To start with, we needed a way to keep everything consistent. The 3D work was done in Blender, with some additional modeling in Maya. OpenStreetMaps data was imported for the harbour, scaled to the real-world size, and referenced throughout all other scenes to keep the positioning consistent. Once the bridge model was imported, we lined it up to the OpenStreetMaps data, based on reference images. For the live action shots, footage was taken from a helicopter flight around the harbour. When a shot was tracked, we lined it up to the reference data. For some shots, removing the bridge was necessary, which was usually done by creating a clean plate and tracking it into the footage. Depending on the complexity of the shot, several layers of clean plates were made, and in certain shots, water replacements were made as well. Compositing was done in After Effects, and matte paintings were made in Photoshop. Imagining a new Sydney layout was based on the street map data, adding new buildings and trees around areas the bridge would bring more traffic to. Trees were generated along splines using geometry nodes, which could be animated for shots where we needed them to appear. For the shot of Balmain transforming into a bustling business district, the buildings were animated to appear in a sweep across the land mass, and the trees filled in the streets at the bottom. Another layer of trees was used as masks to blend the CG in with the existing environment. Scenes were rendered in layers for the bridge, reflections, and different city sections. In compositing, this allowed us to tweak them separately and match the colours to the footage. For the shot of a New Year's celebration happening behind the Stowe Bridge, stock footage was mapped onto geometry in 3D space and used to light the model. This was fairly subtle, so additional lights were manually animated to emphasize the main color beats of the fireworks. The different layers of lighting can be added together to control how spread the lighting is. To roll back the clock and visualize the untouched past of Sydney Harbour, we used a few techniques. 2 matte paintings were made for the distance and midground. For the distant areas, simple colors were used to blend out the top of coniferous trees. The layers were stacked, and a subtle mist was added. The foreground was a full CG solution. Rough land masses were modelled, and then foliage was scattered using geometry nodes. The portraits were done in After Effects, using 3D layers for subtle camera moves. Once the basic template was set up, each portrait was varied with different frames and backgrounds, different lighting, and a unique colour scheme in the grade. A subtle light streak effect and some grain finishes the look. For these stylized scenes, first a 3D environment is populated with props and a character is posed. Then, the scene is lit, a cell shader is applied to the character with a tone map reflecting only 3 flat colors representing different levels of brightness, and a similar cell shader is applied to the background, except with a single color applied and a tone map applying more and more hatching effect to the darker lit areas. And there you have it. If you found this interesting, give the video a like and consider subscribing. We will be tackling similar projects in future and keep the behind the scenes content going. If you have a historical project you think would make for an interesting video, leave it in the comments. Thanks for watching.